See if this is going to work. Welcome to our second group call. Welcome, Debbie. Luckily, we didn't get the times confused. And we're going to kind of unpack a little bit of week 2 and then base week 3. There we go. Sam's joining. And first of all, let's just do an alignment and close your eyes for a moment and just feel where you're at. Landing into the body, the physical body. See how much deeper can your breath go? How much more can you trust your physical body to hold you right now? How much further can you descend into your being? Allowing the weight to pull you toward the earth and allowing the earth to hold you. Feeling whatever vibrations are there. Where does the energy in your body feel unsettled? Does it want to move in some way? Is there any movement that you can do to just allow the energy to then circulate within the system? So breathing up and down the body in a vertical line and just seeing how following the circulation of the energy, blood flow, checking if any places feel stuck or scared. And tuning into your emotions. What's the emotion circulating this morning or this evening? Allowing that emotion bubble up. Whether it has a name or not, just feeling whatever is there and needs to be felt. And this week in particular, we're welcoming fear in all its forms, which can show up as excitement. And we're just going to be with the emotions, anything that's surfacing, and seeing if we can kind of not identify as the emotion itself. It's just something that's coursing through the body. It's running in our system. And again, if there's any movement you can do, any movement that you can allow the body to make, to allow the feeling, allow the processing. If you'd want to dispel any of that, you can shake, you can shout into your hands if that feels safe. Or we're just going to lift it up toward the heart. Breathing really wide into the chest so that the rib cage opens. And if the feeling is something you need to be held in, can you trust that the space around you is holding you and calling in any spirit guides, anything that you want to hold you in that as well? And we'll just keep the heart vibrating, and the vulnerability as a force on this planet is our theme for this week. And I'd love to hear a word or a sentence or anything from each of you on where you're at, what's coming up, what's the theme that's going through the body in this time. And as we're listening, we're still staying with our own heart. So you can share at any moment you feel is your time to share. Um, yeah, I'm really tuning into this field and kind of harvesting it shamanically with that. I'm aware that it's full moon today in the next basically 12 hours. And whenever it's full moon, it feels like the sun and the moon are polarizing. So also our unconscious and conscious sides are polarizing and having this internal battle. I feel really what Priyanka was saying about the duality um, emerging. Like, yes, we are consciously this love, and we can find the compassion for ourselves and others, and the shadow side of it is all the things, like all the birth trauma. What Elizabeth was sharing, I feel like is really linked to, like, okay, it's just me and my shadow, like the story and the belief and the soul's agony that wells up. So they're both tangible in times of full moon and like whenever it gets triggered in our lives. So it's a really special time to be doing a call. Um, this aspect that I want to bring this week in meditation is really meeting our fear and being able to be with that. So hence I'm bringing up a little bit of that, so that actually, when we go into the world with our vulnerable hearts and whatever is present in any moment, we're not afraid to share that, and we're not afraid to lead with that. Yes, you can watch this back. I just pause it for personal shares in case anyone wants to share something super personal. But otherwise, since we're all here, yeah, you can watch this back. And I really don't want to forget about the emotional body. Like this week is still, the next week is going into relationships and how do we actually express ourselves within that, giving a lot of communication tools around it. But I feel like still this piece on the clarity of what I'm feeling is an upwelling in the body, and I just need to move it somehow first before I come into communication with someone else. If I don't want to put my emotions on them. There was this question last week around like, okay, I don't think anyone responded, but what do I do when a colleague or a co-worker just comes and like puts their emotional body on me? So how do we work with transmuting whatever is in the field, whatever is present in our own bodies, in someone else's body? And I feel like I touched upon it last week as well, how important it is to just move the emotion. Like it's just a wave. It's almost like we're all in water and somehow the water needs to find its way to move through. So the more soft and malleable and mobile I am, and I don't freeze myself into this condensed hardship, which then battles with someone else's bodies, and then you get this fight phenomena. It's almost like, okay, even if it's painful, can I allow it to either course through me and I don't have to get attached to it? Or can I somehow redirect it and just feel whatever is present for myself, for this other person? And actually, when we're voicing emotions, it might just be that fear is present, shame is present, anger is somewhere in the field between us, so that it's less pointed at. We're still careful with our swords, and I hope that you've done some dancing with anger this week. So this flaming sword of the Dakini, like when it's time, it's really good to call out whatever is wrong, whatever is unjust in this world that doesn't feel like it's in its right place, or it doesn't feel safe for me. Usually when I start to retaliate, it's already the first instinct is I don't feel safe, so I have to defend myself. And just breathing that into the belly. If I don't feel safe. And when that happens, we leave the body and we go a little bit higher up and into our heads, or into, whatever is the part of us that's clenching fear and turning that into anger. So I'm really holding my belly, like calling back the energy down. And into the womb, into my own space. And we have this beautiful privilege as women to have a womb, to call everything back into the womb. Like we've come from a womb. The first place that we didn't feel safe was the womb at birth. And yet we've still got it. We can still go and envelop ourselves into this feeling of, okay, I'm contained, I'm held. The inner feeling of the womb embodied with all of our body. So one of the mysteries with the feminine is that we can grow the womb. As soon as you connect to your womb, whether it is angry, whether there is some feeling to it, but it's allowed to exist. It is already contained within us. And it does transmute everything. Every month, there's a cycle of, okay, I'm bleeding out whatever I don't need, and I'm starting afresh. I'm going to do a new plate. And that feeling embodied, that confidence of, okay, I can hold myself. I can go back to my own womb. I can go back to any sort of cocoon space and just be there as long as I have to be there and emerge when I'm ready. And this is something that I want us to also be able to bring to others. That feeling of, okay, we're all in this womb. We can be in the same space and we're being held. A lot of the time in my workshop or container space, I play a track with a heartbeat in the background as a way of just synchronizing our heartbeats, as a way of feeling like we are is still encapsulated within a womb space. And even just that sound will kind of bring us back into that cocoon, bring us back into this collective cocoon. So the first feeling is always coming back to safety and that whole being held. And from that, we can express whatever was there, whatever the fear, the shame, the anger, whatever is present and needs to be looked at and seen. So we're opening ourselves up, especially practicing the vulnerability. And I want to invite us to really look at what would it take to be vulnerable and show up in this space, in the world, in our relationship to our partner. Just imagining that situation of you just going completely wholeheartedly into space, feeling probably everyone else's emotions as well as your own. And the question is, what are we afraid of? What's the fear of speaking up, showing up, expressing your vulnerability? And I'd love to hear some of your fears. What's coming up uniquely for you?
Yeah, for me, it's like that what I value really, what I see as my gift, that there's really no one who's really interested in that sort of my, so that my in essence what really is sort of my soul gift is not needed or not wanted. So that the rest is less important, but that stings in a way.
The fear for me is about not being received or understood. So I think at the core of that is like a fear of being abandoned or rejected or even like humiliated and ridiculed. Yeah. I'm going to read Priyanka's aloud. What's coming up is being open in my activated heart and womb and not trying to build a wall, knowing I have boundaries in place, that I'm safe and held. And Priyanka, I would ask you to just pinpoint on the fear of what if you're coming with an activated heart and womb, and what makes you build that wall. There's something that happens in that moment of just can I just abandonment and betrayal.
Um, my fear in those spaces is it's that I'm not enough, and not like in this moment I'm not enough, or it's not right, or there's something else to open or meet another person. Is that I'm never going to be enough. Like it feels bottomless and like hopeless and just like this huge pit of I don't belong and not work, like that kind of stuff. So
Um, yeah, I've been feeling the not good enough and never going to be accepted with my family and people around me, as I'm the last one to know anything, and I'm outcasted a lot of the times with who I am. So yeah, I feel not good enough and not accepted. And yeah, that's my main fear.
I think I am fearful of stepping into the power of self-worth. So yeah, just figuring out why that is always being that way. So I'm still kind of grappling with that.
So what I would suggest is that we tackle that fear a little bit in this moment. And we're going to practice just going into it and aspecting and then creating that womb like container for ourselves whilst in that. If you have a chance to have some space around you, if you have a pillow, if you're on a bed, or if you have floor space with some cushions and you feel safe and private, yeah, I'd love you to just take some space and I'll guide you through it You don't have to look at the camera if you can just hear my voice. And hopefully I can put on some music. Let me know if you can hear me through the music. If anyone's still on the screen. Karen, can you hear me? Yes, perfect. So creating some space around you so that you have a chance to move your body. If you want to curl up at any point, you have space to do that. And some soft cushioning or a blanket. Staying first with your own vulnerability, your open heart. And whatever that feeling in the body is, shedding layers of our age and going back into child, going back into infancy, really fresh and clean and pure. The soul that has just incarnated. Helpless in the body, but so loving. So wanting to be met by love in the world. And then inviting the fear in. The fear of not being accepted or not being held. Being ignored. Being abandoned. Shaking your body and allowing the emotion to just be with you. If it's in rage or if you need to use a pillow, you can hit your pillow, you can scream into it, muffle yourselves. And just try to keep your body moving or your chest open, not completely freeze. Shaking. Breathing lower into your belly. Fear of not being enough. Not enough. I'm not worthy. Seeing what's happening in your body Where's the contraction? Where's the pain? Allowing the body to contort and go into that feeling. No one's coming, or no one's interested, no one's holding me. Breathing into that contraction, into that feeling. Breathing it up into the heart, your throat. If there's any sounds that need to come out, allowing and releasing. Shaking the body out if it's in fear. If it's really frozen, you can contract and release. Breathing lower into the belly again. Shifting your focus from looking for that love outside into your own body. How can you be with whatever is present for you right now? Holding the contorted part of your body, breathing into any pain that's present, any pain that's anything that's rejecting life because of fear. Breathing into fear itself. Acknowledging that fear is not mine, it exists, it's present, body somewhere, and by breathing into that void, shaking it, sounding it, conscious energy, love moving through. Sinking into that aloneness of your own space. You can have a moment to lie down or sit in meditation, coming into that own space. And softening the body. Softening all of our muscles, any contractions, allowing the belly to open. And just feeling the expansiveness of my own womb. Breathing the spaciousness within your body to envelop you from all sides. And bring yourself back into the cosmic womb. The timeless, ageless, primordial space. Underneath all the emotions, there is space, the spaciousness, where everything exists and nothing exists. Surrendering into that cosmic space as something that is holding you and that you can merge with and melt into. And all the stars, galaxies, matter, dark matter is contained in that cosmic space. And in that place you belong. That is the place where you're one with everything. You are everything. So breathing that spaciousness into your whole being. Subsiding the fear. Being able to hold your own inner child as a child of the universe. Everything, everyone. And scanning your body for any tension and just releasing that and surrendering. At some level, in that level of space, we're all in the same experience of life. And we share those feelings of abandonment, that separation from spirit, the separation from the cosmic womb, the womb of our mother. hold ourselves in that. We can hold everyone else in that as well. Every single human being that's been born has been separated, has been abandoned by the cosmic womb, has felt this pain of being outcast, being separate. Feeling like it's not fair. So if we can breathe in the suffering of the world, we can breathe out compassion and try and alchemize it in our hearts, in our bellies, in the womb. So bringing any fear into connection with that cosmic womb, with that spaciousness within your own being that's connected to everything. Lifting up someone that you love into your mind's eye, someone that's easy for you to love this lifetime in this personal heart. See if you can just extend that love toward them without any conditioning, without any strings. They have to be a certain way. And bringing everyone your personal heart loves around you, that you can love without any expectation. It just is. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot of pains and wisdoms to be gained. But in this lifetime, you've chosen those beings to be your allies, your family, your lovers. And then inviting people who you have trouble loving, someone who aggravates or feels like they're the most horrible being on this planet. You may not even know them. And see if you can breathe out love toward them as well. And dissolve any conflict, any feeling of separation, any feeling of misunderstanding. Hold them in this place where they've been abandoned. And lastly, we dissolve all of that separation to a place of void where only love is. And breathing in love, breathing it out. There's nothing else. Feeling the softness in your body. If there's any remaining parts of the body that need your love, this thing that just exists everywhere, you may direct it there with your hands, with your breath, with your movement. And we're coming back into our collective space that is love as well. So I hope I wasn't going too fast or too slow, but I really want to anchor in this feeling of, okay, I can transmute fear into love at any point, at any moment. And to me, that place is going through the void or going into the cosmos as a way of anchoring myself back into the greatest womb that ever exists. If anyone wants to give feedback, I'm super open and welcome. How was that for you?
Yeah, I would love to. That was amazing. I really love the cosmic room. At the start, I really deeply felt the unacceptance as a infant. Like I really felt that, and that's sort of been a little bit of my issues in my childhood anyway. But when just before you said to send love and bring everyone in, I got a vision of at first it was very small. I went into the room and it was very small, but then it expanded and it was black. And I'm not sure if you can hear me. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I just, I was in that space, but then I just started automatically drawing people in to that space before you started saying bringing love to everyone. So I was just sort of, that was really beautiful. And it was powerful. So thank you.
Was there any bits that anyone struggled with besides Elizabeth not hearing everything? I'll try to type it down for sure.
Well, it was just the last bit of inviting in deliberately the people I dearly like to keep at a distance. And how powerful is that to not do that, to give up that fight and to just say, yeah, it's part of me probably as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mine was a good kind of problem. At the start, each time I would bring in fear or abandonment, it would like move down into my heart and my womb, be like, "Oh, you belong," and just shift. And I was like, "Okay, well, what else do we got?" And it just sort of, it's like it knew where you were gonna go. It just was already. So yeah, I don't know. I was like, well, I guess this isn't a big problem then. It was, and I was already reaching for other people's. Like I could feel my cat's fear, and then it was like, but it's okay. And I was already doing this like vortex of pulling it in and transmuting it. So it's kind of beautiful. But yeah,
Amazing. You got to take that on tour. We don't all have to share. I'm just like inviting some feedbacks. So if anyone has anything, otherwise we can move on. Anything precious? I feel like it's a good in Finnish, in my language, we say it's a donkey bridge, like when you move from one topic to another. And there's something about this third week being about relationships and really still like, okay, well, like now aspect with that, like once we've dealt with our own fear and with our own emotional stuff and the shadows that are coming up, putting that into any dynamic. And I feel like this is relevant whether you're working one-on-one with people or whether you're working with groups, but there's always going to be projections, there's always going to be those people that are challenging to deal with, and it'll just raise up, I don't know, my raging mother wounds, or my not good enough father stuff. And yeah, there's people that trigger us, and the biggest trigger, we'll go into it next week, will probably be some sort of a luciferic satanic aspect, whatever we think is like not capable of loving, if there is such a thing in the world. So I want us to be just equipped with that feeling of I'm able to transmute into love, like everything is love, like that's the universe that I live in. But yeah, there will be some aspects of, especially aspecting with the masculine, since we have a feminine container, those who do not have a womb, those who just penetrate things, and finding that in ourselves. So this week's exercises are a lot about, okay, I'm going to aspect with my masculine, both the chivalrous one and the one that lets me down and stabs people with their comments and actions, and in any way causes harm, because we also have that. And probably women more so than men have very immature masculine sides, which then can show up as belittling even other women, or treating them like objects, which is something that I, interesting enough, like uncovered in in relation with women. Like, oh, like when you go into your masculine, you treat me like a teenage boy. Like you have no idea. So there's a little bit of that coming up. But what I really wanted to touch upon that's coming from the end of that meditation induction is the 3 layers of love, or the heart. So we can kind of do and deal with our personal relationships through communication. There are people that are already in our lives that we can, physically aspect with. We don't need to like bring them into just like an invisible form, though we can. And dialogue with them in that way, but actually learning to dialogue in person in real life is one of the skills. Asking for what you want, talking about fears and desires, and also boundaries of, well, this is what I want and I don't really want that, and maybe there's a way we can work it out. And that applies both to personal relationships and to clients. So in personal relationship, I'm engaged with me in this lifetime, in my being as it is, and this is my limits, my boundaries. Like I may have trouble loving someone that I have a conflict with because of father issues or whatever it is, and then we can play in the archetypes of that, whatever is coming up, and that might change from one day to the next, but there's usually an archetypal dynamic. If there is a polarity, if there is a friction or a trigger, or when there's attraction and passion, there's still a polarity. Usually there's like something that wants to spark together or separate. So either like, and we are running this dynamic. Sometimes I get triggered by people who are the same as me more than people who are different, because I find it easier to love beings that are different. But then when they're like too much like me, like, oh, that's a nasty trigger. Like I can blame them for something and immediately notice I have that quality in me. That's been my biggest teacher. Like I cannot criticize this person at all because everything I say about them, I have. Like I have exactly those characteristics and those features. And it's just directly a mirror. So one of the practices that I'm bringing into my relationship is actually just doing that with a mirror, like saying all the things I want to say to my partner, but actually just saying them to myself in front of a mirror. As a way of listening to myself. And actually the first relationships in us is being with our own masculine and our own feminine. And even if we have an outer form of that in life, first I need to deal with whatever is wrong with the dynamic. If I'm not being listened to, can I listen to myself first? So that's like the first degree of separation. This is just like everyday maintenance and cleaning closets and being with what is in relations. And when we go into the transpersonal, which is what I was inviting people that are harder to love, or whether, and they are maybe not in our lives, and they're one step removed. And this is something that's come up in also doing Dakini work, like literally working physically with people that I don't know and loving them. Like the quickest point that I found into doing one-on-one work is actually just coming from love and accepting and treating them just as I would treat lovers. Okay, Karen, bye, darling. And the transpersonal heart is way bigger. It can love so many people. It can love the whole of humanity. Everything can fit into it if we find the right angle toward it. But that requires me to not just be my individual self, And I feel like that's when we start to call in the Dakini, or the archetype that is actually present for this person that I may not know, and maybe they're projecting their mother wounds on me. Like, you don't notice me and you're not listening, and why are you always telling me to do this and that? I don't need to take that on personally. I can actually just like, wow, I'm being your mother right now. Instead of running the dynamic in a way that's expected and has always been, can I switch the dynamic and do something different, and just catch myself not saying the word that fits into that place, and actually change the script. So a lot of the session work that I've done is repatterning wounds that we have and fears that we have around separation, abandonment. When I was working a lot with men, of course, they have an expectation of a feminine, and I am not their partner, I'm not their mother, but yet I can offer a feeling and that womby space of love that then translates to them feeling loved and cocooned and wombed in themselves. So in one way or another, all of this work comes down to like rebirthing almost. But it has all these textures. It can be erotic love. It can be just maternal love and holding and crying. It can be friendship. It can be innocence, like little girl meets another innocent being, little boy or a little girl. So a lot of that has been and is just meeting whatever the emotion is that's present in the room, which is why we're spending a lot of time scanning emotional body and being able to be with any feeling that arises, so that we can join that. Like, wow, I sense that there's a fear present, and it's okay. And how then the question is, how do I love this person in a way that can transmute and help them transmute their own fear? Not take them out, not make them shut down, but actually be able to kind of, it is almost like a feminine way of penetration. It isn't a direct, sharp, like shove. It's more becoming from the inside. I've used this a lot when I was aspecting with pedophiles, and I was really trying to like be in my innocent little girl on one cushion, and then the other side was anyone who's abusing children. But like, I really went in and wanted to embody that and then bring love into it, like somehow having that dialogue and actually taking that place and feeling what the desire and what the abandonment wound within the thing that I was upset about and in fear of was, helps me to understand what's missing. And there was a lot of heart missing. There was no love present. And I could feel this concave in the chest and the grappling for any warmth in the world. So this is a very, I don't know if it's like bacterial or viral way of penetration. It's almost like it's invisible. It might go through someone, or it might be just embodying them. Actually helps me to understand what's going on in that organism, in that system. And from the perspective of the even greater field, this void, like the cosmic womb, the love that is, and it doesn't polarize, it doesn't personalize. That part can just permeate anything. I'm explaining this in a very cosmic way, but bringing it back down to, let's say, the archetypes of this full moon is Sagittarius and Gemini. And if you're looking at the sun is about to hit the direction of the black hole. And Sagittarius is one of these, it's the archer archetype. So it has that penetration. It's just going toward its purpose. It's going toward its cause. Doesn't give a rat's ass about anyone else's things. It's on a mission. But ultimately, it's the mission to become non-dual, become singularity. And so the goal is just single-pointed focus on one hand. So we can have that, we can still have that purpose. And actually, I hope that this week is also growing up our masculine and this purpose and this point of focus. This time of year is really beautiful for that, because it is Sagittarius kind of season. The sun is next to the black hole. And we have this like, okay, I know that that's a direction where our Milky Way is structured from. Like that's where the biggest pull is. It's easy. We can just gravitationally fall toward the sun and we'll go where all of the mass in our galaxy goes toward. On the other hand, where Earth is in Gemini. And Gemini is all the polarities and all the relationships and loves duality and loves role play. So I'm also encouraging and supporting you to play with any relationship that you have in your life that you can aspect with. The exercise is aspecting with your own masculine. I think I did it with like 2 different ones. So I had a shadow and a light aspect of it, or a dark and a light aspect of it. But in any way, any polarity, archetypal relationship that you have with masculine, whether it's me and father, me and God, me and Donald Trump, whatever the thing is that you cannot integrate with, that you simply are not, I invite you to take 2 pillows and put them in 2 different corners of the space and change positions, dialogue, cry, scream, punch the pillows, hump the pillow. You can like do some really good pillow fucking, which is it's part of Ista's training. I don't know if you've never done this before. Basically, it's making love to a pillow, uniting with whether it's your inner masculine, basically, or someone that you're really at odds with, and just seeing what happens if you do that rotation a few times. We should by now have enough tools to move energy and like just shake and sound and do whatever it is. This could turn into a play. This could turn into you actually writing a poem or a whole TV show about it. Everything that exists is partly those, whatever it is, the polarities that exist. One of the ways I tackled my abandonment / the other wounding was writing a play about Lucifer being a woman and being abandoned by God, and bringing up all of hell just because she was so devoted and she was so in love with, like, she was the best angel, and she did everything, and then she was sent to hell to rule hell because we needed polarity on planet Earth. And of course she was separated from her love forever and ever. And all this rage, all these gimmicks that she created came from that place of yearning to unite again with that beautiful love. Anyway, it's a great play. I hope I can make it into a mini short film one day. But yeah, it was amazing dream come true to actually see that played out on stage with other people. So yeah, encouraging also your creativity. Any questions?
I have one. If you're aspecting something really dark, like a criminal or something like, something that's very triggering.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this because I don't know if it's past life memories or just shit come up. And so I'm like, all right, this is something that needs to be explored and aspected, or fears that are coming up. Are you somehow inviting that into your field? Is my kind of fear that comes up?
I feel, and like this is my perspective, that everything happens in our imagination. Like anything is like astral plane, imagination, dream time, and the one layer beyond that is kind of the dark and the void and the cosmic womb. So I'm not really afraid of the dualities and the aspects and things that I can invoke, because there's this tool of non-duality to bring it all back into dissolution. And yeah, if you feel confident with that, it's almost as if we need to have enough love in ourselves to accept anyone, any duality, any person that we may conjure up or, put on this pillow invisibly. Happy to talk to you this week about it if you have doubts.
Yeah, let's go. I think that might be a deep dive, because it's just like it's been a topic of journaling, why I have these irrational fears kind of come up. So I would like to journey through it. But yeah, no, I think you gave me enough to kind of start with, and then we'll explore it.
Great.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Just to be sure, what you are asking us now is also going to be in this sheet?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to be in our website.
Yeah. And also because I don't have the time to read everything. I'm diving in deeply. I cannot this fast.
Yeah.
So how do I approach it? Just the way I approach it now is just intuitively. Okay, I'm going to grab this. I'm going to grab pages and then leave it, and thinking, okay, this actually could be 3 years as well as 6 years. That's fine by me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try to do everything you suggest in 6 weeks. I'm going sort of.
No.
So, okay.
That's totally fine. You don't have to follow completely the time frame. I'm in dialogue with people who were like on the verge of coming to this course, and then they were like, no, I have kids and I have this and I need to do it in 6 months or something. So I totally understand. What I suggest, especially choosing who we want to aspect with, and I want to leave it loose, like there will be instructions in the website for sure. But one of the ways is like finding literally an archetypal character, like using tarot decks or something that is really symbolic of the person that you're aspecting, like whatever it is. It could be a characteristic, like, oh, I hate selfishness. Who's the most selfish person alive that I can think of? Can I like aspect with just like them as the embodiment of selfishness? This is what we're doing when we're calling someone the devil. They're actually not. Like that's again something that we're conjuring from our imagination. It's a collective imagination, so it carries way more power, which is also why we're using the Dakini. Like the Dakini as a word already carries the energy of so many ages and eons of women having done this work, having done ways of integration of the body and the spirit, showing up in places with vulnerability, with fierceness, and showing up as love basically into any situation. So that is my goal in the end of the day. that we're not letting any fear of any person crumble us from our mission, from our love toward the world. So this is one of the steps toward it. This was the Hermit, but I don't know if I have the Devil somewhere in this deck. I showed it to the last course, and ironically in this deck, similar to my story, the Devil was a woman. And even just that little bit, what if Lucifer was a woman? Changes everything. Like, we can't project the same amount of bullshit that we would on a masculine satanic figure, you know, like, oh, she's a woman, like, oh, I can feel what that feels like. So yeah, you can play with it in whatever way you want and choose. You don't have to choose the Devil, basically. Can't find her. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one question. It's more about, I have more difficult. I think it's almost easier to go on the complete other side. Oh, that's a beautiful one. Let me shut up.
That's the Devil.
She's actually beautiful.
So aspecting with this Devil is very different from aspecting with a horned goat-headed being, or, you know, whatever he looks like. Yeah, your question.
So the question that I had is going straight into the darkest side. That's almost like interesting, but I have the most difficulty to cope with the boring, unimaginative, non-creative, day by day man. It's like sort of almost makes me bored out of my skull. But those are the half of the population or more, in my imagination. So, and really having to even to imagine having to cope with them is much more. And it's also why I don't talk as much as I should speak up, because of not wanting to interact with those bullshit. I rather have the darker side than this middle thing. So would that not be a better thing to do then?
Yes, you should definitely aspect with the boring masculine. And I just wanted to point out, you said something in the beginning about your own fear of not being interesting enough. So I'm just seeing this, like, again, just like the self-criticism, like there's some part of you that's not special enough, and then criticizing everyone else for not being special enough. And I feel like there's a lot there if you swap it into listening to the part of your own masculine inner man that feels inadequate, that isn't
I have
special
a
enough.
very mean feeling in me here.
Yeah, it's any of this stuff is very rich soil. There's no ways to go wrong. Any other questions? If not, I'm going to stop the recording.